Right, so today I wanted to talk a little bit more about Bitcoin and crypto. And, Dan Held here brings up a very good point in that he says in 2013, Bitcoin crashes to $50. 2015, Bitcoin crashes to $200. 2018, Bitcoin crashes to 3,000. 2021, Bitcoin crashes to 30,000. Now, I believe it went just below 30,000, but, it's been trading in a range of about 32-ish thousand US to about 40,000 ish US over the last couple months. It's broke out from both sides, I think, once or twice. Um, but again, here's the important point here. And again, here's the first thing you always got to bring up when it comes to this stuff is that nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. Do your own research. All this stuff is obviously just my opinion. But um, he points out the last thing here. Notice a pattern, right? In that there is a clear pattern here. When Bitcoin has its big drawdowns, you notice that the bottom of said drawdown is always a lot higher than the previous one, right? And this is the thing that I think that this is going to keep happening. Now, here's the thing: there probably will be diminishing returns, but Bitcoin is still going up almost 200% per year. Now, that's obviously not going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen over the next 10 years. It's happened over the last 10 years, but I don't think anyone thinks it's going to happen over the next 10 years. But even if it goes up a tenth of that, you don't think it can do a tenth of that? 20% per year? That's still double what the stock market averages, right? Let's say it goes up a fifth of that, right? That's what, 40,000? Or sorry, not 40%. I don't know if that's the exact number what that would be, but 40%, right? That's four times, right? Like, yeah, I don't know, right? I really don't know, but personally, I still think it's probably going to go up in that 40 to 50%. If I had to say over the next 10 years, my guess is that it will be in that 40 to 50% range, right? I think it's again my given this pullback, I've definitely become, at least as far as the price goes, at least in the here and now, a little bit more bearish. But in the long run, every bit is bullish, right? Like, and this is the thing I always bring up too, is that what has happened aside from the price going down should make people more bearish over the last couple months. Like nothing really. People would say, "Oh, Elon Musk," but Elon Musk never should have had so much influence in the first place. People would say Tesla, but their reasoning was stupid. Like it's not bad for the environment. The majority of Bitcoin mining is already done with renewable energy, and the majority of Teslas are not powered with renewable energy. So if that's their standard, well, they should cease production of their own vehicles, right? So the reasoning is stupid, right? And I think Elon Musk clearly maybe not be a full-on sellout, but at least a sellout to some degree. I mean, what else? I mean, China. Like, who cares about China? I mean, if anything, that's a good thing in the long. And not to mention, it's hilarious to see the same people that bring up, oh, well, Bitcoin is mined in China. You shouldn't like it because of that. And then the amount of mining being done in China is going down drastically now, and yet they're still saying that they're still trying to argue that that's bearish. It's like just admit it. You guys are going to be bearish no matter what happens, right? It's like Peter Schiff. It's like it doesn't matter what happens, he's not going to like it, right? And this is the way that these people are wrong in my mind is that if you have a opinion about this kind of stuff, there or a hypothesis is a better way of putting it. There must be a way for you to be proven wrong. And the fact that these guys never bring up I don't like Bitcoin for these and these reasons, but here's what would need to happen for me to be proven wrong. And it would have to be something that's actually plausible, right? Like not Bitcoin going to, $1 million trillion, right? Or every single country in the world adopting it uh, as legal tender, right? It would have to be something that's actually reasonable. And that tends to be what people say is that they'll either flat out ignore that point or they'll come up with some impossible standard. Either one, it just kind of shows that they shouldn't be trusted in my mind, right? Um, But again, um, the other point that you always have to bring up when it comes to this kind of stuff is that if you've done your research on an asset, whatever it is, right, and this is something that every single expert trader will agree on. They may have slightly different opinions to the extent and how they would go about it, but they would all agree on is that if you let's say you have an asset that's worth 50,000 and you think it's worth 100,000 and it goes down to 35, you should be even more bullish on it than you were at 50 or 45 or 40 or 35, wherever it is, right? You should be even more bullish. And this is the thing about Bitcoin is that nothing fundamental has changed about it. Like nothing when it was at 80,000 Canadian or 65 US, nothing fundamental has changed. Like absolutely and utterly nothing. The only thing that has changed is Tesla, which is no reason to be bearish, and China, which, if anything, should be a reason to be bullish, right? So, in my mind, you're getting an asset that's worth, in my mind, and in most people who seem to, in the space who seem to know what they're talking about, an asset that's worth 100 to 200,000, and you're getting it for a 50 to 100% discount. Like if that's not a steal of a deal, I don't know what is, right? So, um, and here's the thing too, when it comes to the price, too, people say, "Oh, what if it goes down more?" Well, nothing is going to change in my mind. Like the only thing that could happen is something fundamental changing about it, right? Something fundamental, like I don't know, like governments actually like really, really, really going out of their way to tax it, right? Like not just, I mean, there already is taxes on it in most places, right? Like I mean, like you know, and not to mention, Julie, like a crazy amount, like a 90% tax or something like that. And not only that, we're gonna throw you in jail for 10 years if you don't pay, right? Like something like that would be something that would make me. That wouldn't be enough for me to sell completely, but it would definitely make me a little bit bearish. Like an actual legitimate hack. Um, you know, something like that, you know, things like that, like things that actually fundamentally would change Bitcoin, right? But the reason why I don't believe that, and I don't think that that's legitimate, is that there is a very clear trend in the other direction, right? And what points to that? Well, you have one country that's already adopted it as legal tender. You have other countries that are talking about it. You have institutional investors that are buying it up. You have billionaires that are, it seems like every month or even multiple times per month you have a new billionaire that talks about how they've allocated a percentage of their portfolio to it. You have hedge funds, you have retirement fund, like maybe not retirement funds, but you have a lot of these large banks that are making it available to their clients. It's like the trend is very clear that it's becoming more adopted and not less adopted. If there was concerns about governments banning it, the trend would be in the other direction. Like, do you actually think a lot of these billionaires and hedge funds and banks would be buying it or offering it to their clients if they thought the government was going to ban it? Like, of course not, right? It just doesn't make any sense. And here's the thing too, when it comes to this stuff, is that eventually it's going to come to the point, I think, to where FOMO is going to make the price skyrocket, because and that may not happen until the next halving, for all we know, and maybe it's two halvings, I don't know, but eventually it's going to get to the point to where it's like there's only going to be 21 million coins. I need to get me some of this stuff, right? I need to get it, and that is something that I think is going to happen as well, right? And this is something that I think will drive probably the next halving. It may even drive maybe even over the next year, for all we know. Is that I still think it's distinctly possible that we hit 100,000 by the time this year is up, or over the next year. And another thing that I think could happen too is that we could see bullish periods at in between halvings. Typically, it's up until this point, it's been halvings to where the price has gone up. I don't know if that'll happen, because I think things are different this time around. And people say, "Oh, I've always heard, I've heard that before," but they are, because no billionaires were publicly talking about being in Bitcoin any of the previous times. There was no, you know, you know, big corporations like MicroStrategy, Tesla, Square, et cetera, that had Bitcoin. So things are different this time around. There's no there's no hedge funds, at least that I'm aware of, that had there's no countries that had it as legal tender. So it is different this time around. So I think we could see big draw ups maybe a year or two from now, right? The one thing that I will say though is that it will be volatile, right? It will be volatile, but in the long run, it's still going to go up 50 to 100% per year, I think. I think that 40-50% number is a pretty good number, at least in my mind. It could be more for all we know. We could see, for all we know, it could be $10 million 10 years from now. We don't know. But the one thing I do know, and here's the thing too, we have to go off the most relevant information. And the most relevant information we have so far is that it's consistently going up over time, right? Yes, it's volatile, but it's consistently going up over time, right? Like, something else that would maybe make you bearish is, let's say it went way down, like below 3,000. Yeah, that would be something that would be legitimately concerning. You know, let's say, the cost of transactions going way up. That would be something that's legitimately concerning. But, the Lightning Network is going to come in at some point. Someone is going to solve the problem of transaction cost. Dude, this is one of the, at least from people on the inside of the crypto space, this is one of the big arguments you get as far as the bearish side. It's, oh, the transaction fees. That's a legitimate concern, but someone's going to solve that problem. Like, if the crypto space is a space that's already worth trillions of dollars, if Bitcoin is already $1 trillion asset, someone's going to solve that problem, right? Because there's a lot of money at stake to solve that problem. So someone will solve it. Not to mention too, like, the crypto space has a comparable amount of users as the internet did in like 1998 or something like that. Like, everyone with a brain, I mean, I'm not old enough to remember, but I'm sure there's plenty of people that are old enough to remember. How was the internet in 1998 compared to now, or even 10 years ago, right? So this is the point in time we're at. Is I think we're going to look 10 years down the road from now and be like, yeah, can you remember when people were all worried about this stuff? Like, we solved this problem so easily. It all, I think that that's what's going to happen, right? And that someone will come up with a way to make transactions for next to $0, right? Like 0.1% fees, or less than 1%, I think, and things will be all hunky dory, right? And Bitcoin doesn't need to be used for everything, too. This is something that a bearish argument you hear, too, that people seem to think that Bitcoin needs to be the perfect hedge against inflation. It needs to be a medium of exchange. It needs to be the perfect form of currency for buying a house, buying a coffee, and it needs to be perfect in every way. Like, does it need to be? Like, gold is what, a 9 trillion dollar asset. Bitcoin's already better than gold for a medium of exchange. It's already better than gold for a store of value. So people complaining about it not being perfect, I think they're just way too idealistic, right? And the guys that I tend to hear that complain about this stuff, they're usually the guys that have been in the industry for a while. They're guys that have made a lot of, maybe not a lot of money, but a good amount of money off this stuff. And they've gotten, maybe it's consciously or subconsciously, I don't know, but I think they've gotten very used to things being kind of easy, right? And it's not going to be that easy going forward. So that's the thing I would bring up when it comes to that stuff. But again, at the end of the day, very clear bullish trend here. I mean, look at these numbers. Look at these numbers, right? 2024, Bitcoin crashes to 250,000. Bitcoin crashes to 200,000, maybe 300,000, right? Where do you think it'll be? Where do you think it'll be? But I think it's going to be well into the hundreds of thousands by the next halving, or at the very least, within a year after the next halving. I think it hits 1 million by the next halving after that, right? That's what I've been saying the whole time, and I'm actually more confident in that than I was at any point in time, right? Something could change that, definitely, but I'm definitely more confident in it. So, anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms if you haven't already. If you want to donate, you could do that as well. Again, I would very much appreciate whatever support I can get. But like I said, check out those links and stay tuned for more.